All I do is kettlebells. The heaviest weight I do is 70 pounds. 10 swings each arm, 3 sets. 10 presses each arm, 3 sets. 10 windmills each arm, 3 sets. 10 renegade rows. With 70 pounds at the end of that is rough.
The renegade Poilievre went rogue. Rogan.
We get to see the maple trees, maple sugar on the maple leaves. We got the biggest wheat fields growing tall. In Canada, where we see the reversing falls. In Canada, we get to see them all.
G'day, eh? Canadian media's been all abuzz this week over Pipsqueak PP Pierre Poilievre's decision to go on the Joe Rogan Experience, which I admit I have not watched and I do not plan to watch since others have done it for me. Thank you all. You have my respect. But this is just the latest in a trifecta of stupid that began earlier in the month when he presented his scheme to save the auto trade by reviving a plan that was designed in the 1960s. And besides, an updated version of the proposal had already been rejected by the U.S. admin in the last trade talk.
At the heart of this auto strategy is the push to get Trump to drop tariffs on Canada by selling this strategy as a better way to restoring U.S. manufacturing. That's the mindset for this, okay? As we have said on the podcast many, many times, Trump has said, you're going to get tariffs. That's all there is to it. Period. End of sentence. But Poilievre just doesn't seem to hear that. Asked how he'd get Trump to give the green light, Poilievre says his plan addresses the president's desire to repatriate
let me
production.
scroll down
here just a bit, Matt. Okay, here we are. Now, this is, I guess, supposed to be the linchpin. This is the big selling point, I guess, for Poilievre. He laid out a one-for-one deal where for every car manufactured in Canada, he said, the same producer would get a car to sell duty-free from a partner in Kuzma. This can be sold as a win-win, according to Seaback, who's the conservative spokesperson here, who's the talking head. The federal government recently struck a deal with China, of course, to bring tariff relief for Canada's agricultural and seafood sector. Remember that? We put 100% tariff on Chinese EVs because the Americans did, and China responded by just beating the crap out of us with a number of very, very high tariffs on what they were just talking about here on agricultural products, right? So the federal government recently struck a deal with China to bring that tariff relief for Canada's agricultural and seafood sectors. It's a move that broke ranks with U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney when he agreed to allow up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into Canada, lowering a 100% tariff on imports imposed in 2024 all the way back down to 6%. Remind you, the overwhelming majority of Canadians support Carney's position on this. Poilievre, once again, is tone deaf. He doesn't seem to get that. Now, more than a year after Trump returned to office, Poilievre is looking to show his plan for dealing with the White House. Again, what fantastical world this guy lives in.
And the chair of Unifor's National Auto Council, John Dagnolo, is disappointed he wasn't consulted on the Conservative Party's proposed auto plan. What was most frustrating is the fact that you'd think he would go to the experts that have to deal with it every day and sit down with our leader who's been involved, he said. Dagnolo represents workers in Windsor who make engines for the Ford F-150s and Mustangs. And Lana Payne, president of Unifor, also responded, saying, Mr. Poilievre, I have concerns and questions with some of what your party has presented. We are encouraged by your effort, but skeptical that this plan can restart idled Canadian facilities. In fact, we fear it may prevent potential future growth, which I do not believe is your intent, Payne wrote. Strategies which stem from the 1965 U.S. Auto Pact were created in a starkly different industrial climate, Payne said, and may not have the same effect due to the increased number of automakers globally. Who just to trip overseas as the opposition leader. Pierre went on to London and Berlin to show his arse. To discuss trade and security. In the UK, his appearance was a weak sister to Carney's at the WEF in Davos, at a small reception hosted by the Conservative Party of Great Britain at the Carlton Club in London. PP spoke about his plan that would go beyond existing trade deals to do more to boost defense cooperation and cut regulations that inhibit trade. Sounds exciting. Liz Truss was in attendance. You might remember her as the former British PM whose term was once featured in a Daily Star live stream competition. Daily Star live stream competition to test her shelf life against a head of iceberg lettuce. The lettuce won when she resigned after 49 disastrous days. PM Stephen Harper's former director Andrew McDougall, who now works in public relations in London, said Poilievre's speech and his trip were an attempt to strengthen his credibility in an area where Carney has an advantage. Canadians chose a leader in Mr. Carney who was unknown, but what he was known for was his presence on the world stage, his experience as the Bank of Canada governor and the Bank of England's governor, McDougall said. I think they voted for that experience. He said, despite Poilievre's long career in politics, he has not had that kind of experience, whether that's in finance or foreign affairs. And then, with his freshly puffed up conservative leader pants, he hopped over to Berlin to pitch Canadian LNG in the dumbest way possible and with complete confidence.
The good doctor's anniversary, but it didn't stop Germans from acting. By May, you had issued a permit and construction was underway for an LNG import terminal to source natural gas from Qatar and the United States. Contracts were signed, supply lines were drawn. And within 194 days, your incredible engineers, architects, and workers had completed the entire project. This is a magnificent achievement. I did share with the good doctor that in Canada, it took 14 years to provide a permit for an LNG liquefaction plant in British Columbia, by contrast. So we have a lot to learn from you on how to move quickly and get things done. But the story, well, some of you are chuckling, so maybe there's some things that you also want to improve on. So let us improve together.
I noticed some of you chuckling in the audience there. Why are they chuckling? Daddy, why are they chuckling? They're chuckling because they're very smart people. These are scientists and engineers, and they know that you've spoken nonsense, okay? And what the fool doesn't realize, that apart from the fact that it didn't take 14 years to get a permit, it took a long time, a decade, to get the industry going as a whole, as an exporter. The fool doesn't understand, and the scientists and the engineers that are in the room, in the audience, do understand, that building an import facility and building an export facility are two completely different things. There's a difference. These are German scientists, okay? In the world of German scientists, this is humor. This is hilarious for them and caused them to laugh at him.
And next, PP's hot air balloon service brought him to the infamous studios of the Joe Rogan Experience, where in his white collar and conservative blue suit and tie, he sat for a 2-hour exercise and acting relatable as a common sense everyman, not the elitist lefty lib like Carney and the Trudeaus. The interview last Thursday was set up by Poilievre himself, according to his campaign manager, Steve Outhouse. Yeah, that's his real name. According to CTV. Basically, the leader and Mr. Rogan were tweeting, or not tweeting, but texting back and forth, and they set it up themselves. During April's last federal election, in which Poilievre lost his long-held Ottawa area seat, Rogan said he'd invited the Conservative leader on the podcast, but the latter declined. That decision prompted Rogan to call Poilievre a dumbass. The purpose of the trip was to be part of the Team Canada approach in dealing with the U.S. amid the protracted trade war, and to present a different side of the Conservative leader from his domestic image. Well, he certainly did that. He managed to give another version of the prayer we know here at home.
Criticisms of you. Like, what did your opponent say that, like, people that resonated with people? What were they trying to say?
It was funny because they all disagreed with my ideas, and they said these are all very scary ideas.
Scary.
And then they said,
growth?
First of all, they said that I had no policies. Then they said they're scary policies, and then they stole my policies right before the election. So, but hey, listen, if the government that's in power now steals all my ideas, and does the things I want to do, then I've won.
Right.
That's why I came here. I didn't just do it so that I could have my name on the door. So I keep saying to the Prime Minister, steal my ideas.
Right. But he doesn't want to.
Well, I won't criticize him on foreign soil.
I understand.
But
good for you.
yeah, I mean, we have a mutual
That's
respect.
such a Canadian thing to do.
That is a very Canadian thing to do.
So polite.
You know,
That's what I've said about Canadians. They're so polite.
Who the fuck is this guy? What did you do with Pierre Poilievre? This is very purposeful. Not criticizing Mark Carney on foreign soil. I mean, good. I guess. Good on you. I don't think it would have mattered if you did. Whatever, you're free to criticize whoever on whatever soil. But like, this is clearly intentional. This is clearly an attempt to try and get into the good graces of more voters, because up to this point, he has not. This is not the perception he has put forward of who he is and what he is. All he has been is this man who opposes everything, even conservative policy, that he appears to acknowledge here that the Liberal Party is adopting. I mean, Mark Carney is at best, center-right politician, which is why you have several conservative MPs now leaving the party to join Mark Carney's Liberals, because they're looking at Carney's government and thinking, these are things that I want. Why don't I just go over there?
Well, it was Canadian former professional mixed martial artist Georges St. Pierre who connected the two, and the Pipsqueak presented Rogan with a custom-made 70-pound maple leaf emblazoned kettlebell as a tribute to the podcaster's signature workout routine. And they spent the next 10 minutes talking all about kettlebells.
No worries, sir. Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. I brought you a gift. I don't normally do gifts. It sort of feels like welfare to me, but here it is. A kettlebell. Huh? I'm a kettlebell freak. My wife hated it, so I'm re-gifting it. Yeah, here, let me toss that over to you. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. You know what? Maybe I'll just, I'll just leave it on the floor here. Oh.
Have you always been a workout guy?
1 second, I just need to catch my breath so that I can pander to you.
I'll let the incomparable Rachel Gilmore go on to give some more pertinent fact checks on other themes they hit on.
Anyway, Rogan goes on to rant about how he doesn't go to Canada anymore, even though he really likes us Canadians, because our laws got so crazy with COVID and the truckers.
It's just an amazing place. It's a great country, and to see it go the way it's been going and sliding the way it's been happening over the last X amount of years. There's just so many things that concern me.
And he claims that someone in Canada was apparently allowed to undergo a medically assisted death for seasonal depression.
He did it for seasonal depression. I'm sure you're aware of that case.
I am.
Like, who allowed that to happen? Who didn't counsel this young guy? Mm-hmm. Who didn't give him a hug?
That is utterly untrue. In the case that I am pretty sure he's talking about, because it made a lot of headlines in some less than scrupulous sources, the young man did have mental health struggles, but he also had nerve damage that caused him to endure chronic pain. But I guess it's too much to ask that Joe Rogan actually has an informed debate about an issue. Anyway, they then got on the topic of mental health, and as you can imagine, it sent them down an extremely weird rabbit hole. And after that initial pushback on the Fidel Castro thing, Poilievre didn't have a lot of fact-checking in the chamber. First, Rogan said in the most US-centric way that the maid industry will obviously want to grow and expand because they're going to want to profit.
The unfortunate thing is that any organization that gets formed wants to grow, and you get financial incentives, and then you hire more people, and then it gets bigger, and then what do you have to do? Well, you have to keep doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Well, what are you doing? You're killing people.
Seemingly forgetting that we actually have healthcare here in Canada. And Rogan also suggested that fitness is better than antidepressants.
Like the exercise thing, it's not just give them, control of their life. It makes them happier. There's been studies that show it's much more effective than antidepressants.
Absolutely. Well, it's first of all, there's the physiological side, which affects the brain. but it's also the sensation of discomfort that you push through.
It can be equally helpful in some instances, which is awesome, but according to Dr. Michael Craig Miller, assistant professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, exercise alone isn't enough for someone with severe depression. Anyway, as the conversation continues, we get a classic dangerous Poilievre rant against experts.
I talk to farmers or factory workers, electricians. I find they know just as much or more than the so-called experts I encounter on Parliament Hill. It was the common people who don't study this stuff for a living, who don't read endless reports and studies, who could just figure out that if there's money pouring into the economy that's not matched by goods and services, it's going to bid up the cost of everything. So that's my experience and my ideology is the common guy knows how to make his own decisions. We need to empower him to do that.
Yeah, just stay out of people's lives.
Exactly.
Yes, because expertise in study doesn't matter, so I take it Poilievre will also have that dude from his street do his open heart surgery if he ever needs one. Anyway, finally Poilievre actually does something helpful. He pushes back on the 51st state bullshit and argues for tariffs being knocked down. Then they moved on to talking about Canada's oil industry, and Poilievre somehow managed to make Rogan sound like an environmentalist.
And I've seen some of the oil extraction that they've done up in Alberta. Where you look at the area, it looks like scorched earth.
No. It's the most responsible oil extraction in the world.
But when you see these, what is that one area that often gets criticized?
Fort Mac.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're open pit mines. You open up a mine, you take out the bitumen, you separate the sand from the oil, you make it less viscous by putting diluent in it, and you ship it off. And then after the mining is done, they resurface it, and you wouldn't even know there was a mine there.
And there's no impact to groundwater, no impact to the environment.
I mean, there's an impact no matter what you do, but at the end of the day, the people who live there are very healthy and very happy, and they're the strongest supporters of the expansion of the oil sands. We have the best industry, the most responsible industry anywhere in the world. It's been a really disgusting PR campaign by extremist environmentalists and frankly some of our competitors to try and make our industry look bad, but it's the best industry in the world.
Yeah, they got me.
Yeah,
I saw some videos on it and I was like, oh my God, what are they doing to the ground? What are they doing to the earth? It looks horrible.
It's all bullshit. It
looks horrible.
Yeah, the only one spewing bullshit here is actually Pierre Poilievre.
And then Monsieur Latrine, Steve Shithouse, Outhouse, also claimed that appearing on a podcast like this is certainly a way that caught attention and will help us with that dual goal. First of all, helping promote Canada abroad, but then secondly, we certainly want to see or have more people see the leader in a personal way because, you know, he's a person and he keeps trying to convince us of that over and over. And nobody asked him to promote Canada with a bunch of old ideas and dishonest claims. So one has to ask, why now? The UCP and PP himself are currently down in the polls, even with the cost of living concerns at home. The Liberals are closer to a majority after recent crossovers, so the chances of a snap election is pretty slim. But Outhouse insists that polls come and go. They go up and they go down. There's some insight. And that the timing was due to the parliamentary calendar with MPs being on break at the time. Even so, little pipsqueak Pierre will never give up on his dream to one day become Prime Minister of Canada. He seems to think that he can break through to the other side of the border with his usual tone deafness, and while we're all feeling disgusted and horrified by what this regime is doing at home and abroad, according to Politico, he's also trying to make connections far too late in the game after ignoring advice from advisors that have told him to do that for years. They say, I was struck by how insular Mr. Poilievre and the Conservative Party was. Former U.S. Ambassador to Canada David Cohen, who served under former President Joe Biden and had advised Poilievre to engage with Trump, told Politico, they have very little to no relationships in the United States, or in any other country for that matter. Whoosh. One GOP operative went further. They don't respect him. The operative said of Washington Republican circles, which shapes how Trump's allies are engaging with Canadian Conservatives. In addition to all the ill will Poilievre is facing, he's also up against the diplomatic reality of a White House that assumes it will be dealing with Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal government for the foreseeable future. The only thing people here know about Poilievre is that apple crunching video that he lost the election and should have won.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological thing.
I never really talk about left
but
or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways,
the full article will be in the links below, and it's a scathing indictment of Pierre's failures to be personable anywhere he goes. The average Rogan podcast gets about 10 million views, and his got about 2 million. Even so, he got a little media bump at home to fill the headlines during March break, where he chose to spend it in a place the majority of us are avoiding. He's accused Carney of having one elbow up and one down, or not throwing one elbow after gaining power. But the truth is that by tootling his own horn the way little Pee-Pee is doing, he's showing weakness to that megalomaniac creditor who would shake him by the ankles for the change in his pockets and then call his wife a dirty immigrant and forget his name immediately. Way to show your elbows, Pee-Pee. Well done.
Hey, yeah, you. Before you click away to watch someone unbox a tactical toothbrush, let's talk about something real. Political Drain isn't just another content mill. We're a digital front in a very real war. Not with bullets, but with ideas, with action, and with solidarity. We pair urgent news with critical education. And we build community around actual resistance, not the hashtag kind. The kind that moves. But here's the thing. None of this is free. It isn't. Behind every video is time, labor, research, and some weird guy asking if we're going to pay the hosting bill. And yeah, some of that money goes to things we can't necessarily say out loud. If you know, you know. Let's just say our special ops aren't Call of Duty LARPers. They're people making real moves to protect, uplift, and organize. You're not just funding a channel. You're funding a resistance network in a world where capital still calls the shots. Unfortunately, in a system built on artificial scarcity, even mutual aid has a price tag. And if we want to grow, if we want to win, we need your help. We need your help. So if you've got even a few bucks to spare, toss it our way. It's not for ads. It's not for merch drops, but for people making moves in the shadows so others can do it in the light. It's just us and you. So fund the mission, fund the fight, fund the future, because nobody's coming to save us. We save each other. That's how this works.